Hello, welcome to this your channel of the better Eurofan. Thanks to me. It is of the few countries that keep their essence with each edition at the contest regardless of the result. I'm not talking about Portugal in this case. The fantastic and very well executed proposal presented by Yolanda during last year's contest was another proof of that, having achieved an outstanding 10th place in the final ranking, so it was expected from them to continue with its participation, aiming to keep showing the most authentic of the Portuguese music and culture to the rest of Europe. Now we will see to the next artists that have had the task to represent the Iberian nation on the main stage of Basel. Here we go. For today's episode, I'm going to review the Portuguese entry for Eurovision 2025, which has been represented by the group Napa with the song Deslocado, which in English translates as Displaced. But before discovering into where they have been displaced, we will discover more about this quintet that wants to step out with their indie musical style in the European musical scene. Without further delay, let's move on with the review. We start as usual checking out their biography and career before leaving their Eurovision adventure in the Alpine country. Napa is a Portuguese indie pop rock group formed by vocalist and guitarist João Guilherme Gomes, guitarist Francisco Souza, bassist Diogo Gomes, drummer Eduardo Rodrigues, and pianist João Lourenço Gomes, coming from the Portuguese island of Madeira. The first four of them have been very close friends since their childhoods. Their strong ties with music will leave them with the time to start their musical project in 2013, when they were still living in the island, initially as a quartet under the name of Men on the Couch. During those beginnings, they made their first compositions in English, taking influences from Portuguese artists like Caetano Veloso or Tom Jobim, and from international artists like Arctic Monkeys, Red Hot Chili Peppers, and the Beatles. Although with the time they will switch from English to their native language, and later they will give the step to leave the island to move to the Portuguese capital, Lisbon. With their move to the capital, while they were studying their college studies, they had in mind to get known themselves widely in the Portuguese musical scene, but at that time they did not have the resources to record and produce an album in proper conditions. Then the band had the idea to do a crowdfunding campaign, with which they get to collect around 3,300 euros, being able to fulfill the ambition of recording and releasing their debut studio album in late 2019 without support from any record label. This musical production will present songs loaded with rawness and melancholy by using catchy melodies, with which they will start to get noticed especially in the indie musical scene. Thereafter, they had a forced hiatus the following year after the release of the album because of the restrictions due to the COVID-19 pandemic, although they always kept working on new music during the subsequent years, incorporating in the process to João Lourenço, who will become the fifth member of the band. It will be in 2023 after signing a record deal with an important world-renowned record label, now under the name of Napa, where they will release their second studio album by presenting a much more mature and complex sound in comparison to their first production, but without losing their essence. The release of the album will be supported with their first promotional tour nationwide the following year, with sold-out tickets in all the concert halls, theaters, and musical festivals where they have appeared, thus consolidating themselves as one of the most promising emerging bands among the musical scene of the country. Being aware of the popularity they will start to have in their native country, the Portuguese public broadcaster would extend the invitation to them to participate with an unreleased song in the renowned Festival da Canção, without imagining that they will have the opportunity to not only take a part of the quintessential Portuguese musical festival, but also to represent their country at Eurovision. Let's see then how begins the Eurovision experience for them. As it has been usual, the Portuguese public broadcaster will organize what it went to be the 59th edition of the Festival da Canção, which serves as a national final to select both the artists and the song that will represent the country in Switzerland. The submission period will be open from mid-August to mid-October of last year for the Portuguese songwriters who wanted to take a part in the musical festival, having received at the end of the deadline a total of 623 proposals. From this open submission, like in the last edition, 6 songwriters will be selected, while other 14 songwriters will be directly invited by the broadcaster, thus keeping the line of the 20 contestants. In the same way, the selected songwriters will not only be announced in early November last year, while the songs will be announced in last mid-January, but also, like it happened in the last edition, all the nominated songwriters will perform their proposals in the musical festival as well. The guys from Napa will be selected as one of the 14 songwriters, and also the performers, that will participate by direct invitation of the broadcaster, as I have commented before, stating on the particular that their entry will top the musical charts of the country after its release, becoming the first single of the band that achieved such milestone in their musical career so far. Finally, the format will keep the same dynamic without any further changes to stand out. Napa will make their first appearance in the second semi-final, where they were the most voted artists after the votes from the jury and the public, thus qualifying straight to the final show. Thereafter, in the final show airing in late last March, the voting results presented a quite particular outcome and probably never seen before in all the history of the Portuguese musical festival so far. From the jury, all the points were distributed among all the finalists without having a clear favorite, being the singer Diana Vidalino, who would get the maximum score, while for the public it was the singer Henka who received the maximum score, the only set of points she would receive after not having any points from the jury. Now then, after scoring all the points from both panels, there is a tie in the first place between Diana Villarino and the guys of Napa, after them being 4th for the jury and 2nd for the public. But precisely after having received more points from the televote, they will be declared the winners of the musical festival, gaining subsequently the opportunity to represent Portugal on the main stage of Basel. Time after their victory, they will record and produce the official music video for the proposal that will be officially released in last mid-May, just before stepping the contest's big stage. There are times in which there is no better place like home. Now going to discover more of this proposal with which these Madeiran guys have participated at the contest. Staying true to their musical style, the melody is an indie pop rock track, which has clear reminiscences to many of the songs from the musical work of the Beatles, blended with a melancholic character proper from Portuguese saudade, which is practically not mixed in the Portuguese proposals for the contest. João Guilherme's voice as the vocalist of the band is pretty good and adapted to the genre, while the rest of the members of the band join him in the backing vocals, especially during the chorus. Regarding to lyrics, it has been written fully in Portuguese by all the members of the band together with a Portuguese songwriter and producer. According to themselves, the lyrics will be inspired in tales and interviews from many personalities also coming from the island of Madeira like them, talking about that identity as islanders, of which they are usually very rude and proud. In that sense, the context behind it evidently makes references to the band's origins, feeling themselves as Madeirans living displaced in continental Portugal, having to move to Lisbon to pursue their degrees and eventually settle their musical careers since then. They describe the song as the most important, significant and personal for the band, having wanted to portray that feeling of being displaced since ever, of being an ocean away from the native island. At the same time, they also have dedicated the song to all the Portuguese immigrants who have had to leave the country to get a better quality of life instead of surviving in Portugal, which is quite significant taking into account that it is still one of the harsh realities that is facing the country nowadays from many years ago, even after overcoming the financial crisis of recent years. Regarding the lyrics with more detail, previously translated of course, it narrates the experiences of a person that has had left his homeland and that is counting days to go back some time, having already the suitcase ready, symbolizing really the accumulation of uncountable memories and the nostalgia for the return in the first verse. In the other hand, the second verse reinforces the deep visual and spiritual connection with its home, Madeira Island, referring to it as a peaceful place and an incomparable refugee, not able to describe with words the feeling of being far from there, emphasizing with the chorus that feeling of being displaced, in which, despite a lot of people of the concrete jungle in which it lives, referring in this case to the big city, it never feels at home. The message transmitted with the track is quite emotional and melancholic, to which undoubtedly many will feel identified. While the song reflects the loneliness and the sadness marked by the departure from their place of origin, it also leaves a message of hope, as there is always the possibility to return, where home, family and friends will be waiting with open arms. Having seen a little more of this nostalgic track, let's see how they ought to portray the emotional contents of it through the official music video. The plot begins with them performing the track from the studio, seeing some shots of them getting into the studio with their musical instruments, while a group of people are taking suitcases in their hands as well, in which are projected footage of many people that are having arrivals so far world through many places. It is to say now that this part has not been casual, as after the release of the song it will become viral, especially on TikTok, in which many Portuguese youngsters will post videos from their own experiences living abroad with the song in the background. Taking the idea of this trend in that social network, the band will invite their followers to send footage of their lives as foreigners in another country, thereafter selecting many of them to show them in the music video. With the first chorus, now they are in what it looks like the lobby of an airport. They're performing the song with their musical instruments in the middle of it, while a crowd of people is wandering around with their suitcases, often passing next to them. The different shows both at the studio and the airport lobby alternate the second verse, until the scene goes back into the airport lobby by the second chorus, initially seeing all the people frozen around them, like time has stopped from them except for the band, and then with the climax of the performance, the people unfrozen and start to move again, getting back into the typical frantic dynamic at the airports, alternating with more shots inside the studio, closing the performance with the band remaining alone in the airport lobby after everyone else left the place. Prior to the release of the official music video, they naturally had the chance to present their proposal with their participation in the Portuguese musical festival. Let's see that how was their live performance during their time at Festival da Canção. Regarding the staging in the musical festival, it has been presented quite simple, with them just performing the track like they would do in any of their concerts, appearing to silhouettes of many colors above people walking and plants and flowers in the visual graphics with a simple lighting. During all the performance, there are general shots of the band at the center of the stage, as well as close-ups of João Guilherme performing the track with his guitar, and at the end of the performance in which the leg strings of the stage turn into blue. I have seen quite right the performance as a typical kid of an indie pop rock band, quite minimalistic, being themselves and without too many extra things, while João Guilherme has a very good vocal performance. I think that the emotion and the feeling they wanted to transmit with the song was crucial, with which they had trespassed the screen and get to conquer the audience, thereafter getting the victory at the Portuguese musical festival against all odds. Sometime after, they will be like many other fellow contestants promoting their proposal live in song of the Eurovision practice of the season, opting for the same minimalistic aesthetic that we saw from them after participating on Festival da Canção. For the staging in Basel, it could be seen during the first rehearsals that it will have many similarities with the one presented at the musical festival. In this case, all the members of the band will wear outfits inspiring the culture from Madeira Island, the lighting will remain simple as well, and there are some visual graphics showing both natural and urban landscapes. Watching the live performance in the first semi-final, it begins with João Guilherme perform the first verse from the bottom of the stage, while he is slowly walking forward, joining the rest of his bandmates in the process through the wide shot. All this when there is a warm lighting and there is a moon over a star sky in the visual graphics, with the first chorus touching to show an urban landscape, in line with this part of the lyrics, keeping general shots of the band and close-ups of the different members of the band as well. With the second verse, João Guilherme, together with Francisco and Diogo, slowly walk up the runway towards the front of the stage, while Teresa playing fly, leaving his trace while flying on the sky until there's a natural landscapes in pastel tones what it will be Madeira. So before the second chorus, the three of them will go back to the back of the stage, seeing again to move over in the starry skyline at the beginning, and during the climax of the performance, the urban landscape is seen again that defaults and vanishes little by little, closing the performance with the Madeira Island reappearing in the visual graphics while they remain in half light. I consider that this has been a simple performance, but nice and executed in an elegant and flawless way, where once again the feeling and the emotion transmitted from them were the key, which has been reinforced with these improved visual graphics. It It was true that the proposal was not counting with huge betting knocks, with many predicting that it would not have any chances to get a spot for the grand final, but then they got this surprise after being announced as one of the 10 qualifiers in the outcome of the televote against all odds. Shortly after in the grand final, the guys of Napa will initially place 19th after the votes for the jury. Thereafter, they will receive just only a bunch of points from the public, hitting down a few positions until finally settling into 21st place in the final ranking. Making a summary of all the comments, the Portuguese entry for this year is loaded with emotion and nostalgia. It has been in this case another of the indie proposals presented in the edition after the Ukrainian and the Lithuanian ones that has been remarkable in particular by its sobriety and emotional depth despite not being profiled to stand out of the contest. While some have praised the proposal for its melodic simplicity and its authenticity, many others have commented that it is very generic and that lacks on any impactful element. And although personally it is not of my favorites from the edition, as I do not identify myself with the message transmitted with the track, I'm in disagree with these last arguments. And I say this because while the final result has not been the most outstanding one for the Lusitanian country this time, the song will become a global phenomenon after its virality on TikTok, still being today the most streamed song of the edition in the streaming platform since the end of the contest, certifying with it the huge impact that has generated among the audience. This definitely reminds the same viral character that the Armenian singer Rosalie would have with her song Snap 3 years ago during the edition held in Turin, Italy, with incomparable differences regarding the streaming numbers, which despite not having had an outstanding position in the final ranking, it will have a considerable impact worldwide time after the contest. Despite the result achieved, they have stated to be satisfied and fortunate of having lived the experience, thanking the public for all the love and support they have been receiving since then and still receiving. After the time on Eurovision, the band has moved forward with their musical career, performing at concerts and musical festivals since last summer in their native Portugal and in other European countries as well. They have released another new single recently, and they have scheduled to release their third studio album at the end of this same year, where the song with which they have participated at the contest will be included. So surely we will still have much more news for them. This has been a Portuguese proposal this year for the contest. But now tell me, have you felt identified with this proposal, or it has been another one of the bunch instead? Whatever is your opinion, let me know in the comments down below thus we can keep up the discussion. And this is it for today's episode. Before I finish, I invite you to give a like to this video if it has been of your taste, with that helping me by bringing me your support and making this video to reach more people. Subscribe to my channel, enable my notifications by hitting the bell, and find me through my social media. Take care and see you in the next episode. Bye bye.